On February 12, 2017, the largest dam in the United States stood on the edge of collapse. An urgent evacuation order was issued as people raced to higher ground, fearing the devastating force of an impending deluge. But the story began 60 years earlier, in May 1957. In the tumultuous 1950s, America was battered by relentless floods, leaving a trail of destruction and loss. The deadly Great Flood of 1951 claimed 17 lives and caused billions in damage to the haunting floods in Connecticut and California. The administration has decided to launch a counterattack in response to the flood. An ambitious strategy to control the nation's lakes and rivers was enacted in 1957 with the River and Harbor Flood Control Act. The impressive Oroville Dam in California's Central Valley stands out as an example of human ingenuity and determination in the face of nature's unrelenting might. Immediately, but it wasn't simple. In December 1964, the Oroville Dam was halfway done, and employees were looking forward to a Christmas holiday. It rained before they could pack away their tools. A torrential downpour, not a drizzle. In certain places of California, a year's rainfalls in 2 days. Mountain mudslides occurred, and rivers overflowed. It was nicknamed the Thousand-Year Flood because no one expected such much rain for another century. The reservoir rose behind the half-finished Oroville Dam. The water appeared to reach the top, overflow the brink, flood past the building site, and down into the Central Valley. The construction workers couldn't stop it, but the rain stopped in time, averting a terrible calamity. In October 1965, employees were unlucky. 2 work trains crashed in a tunnel in 1966 after years of transporting supplies to the site. 4 individuals died and thousands of gallons of fuel burst out of the tunnel. A fire went through the forest, spreading smoke for kilometers. The dam construction has more deadly accidents. Almost 30 employees died on site. Construction workers were relieved in May 1967 when the project was finished. The Central Valley celebrated. A week of celebrations included speeches by future President Ronald Reagan. Oroville was America's highest dam at 235 meters, surpassing the Hoover Dam, California's tallest structure when built. The dam could contain hundreds of millions of cubic meters of water. It reduces winter floods. It would help stop droughts in the summer. It also featured a row of generator turbines for hydroelectric power. But there was an important question that needed to be answered. Was the dam safe? Dams are unsafe without safety measures. If the reservoir overflows, a wall of water will destroy villages and towns in the valley. Under pressure, the dam might burst, triggering a tsunami. Jumedi in China experienced it a decade after the Oroville Dam was completed. Extreme rainfall collapsed 2 dams, killing over 100,000 people. It's the most serious dam disaster, but there are others. Globally, hundreds of dams have fallen or been overtopped in the world. Oroville has spillways to prevent this. Special channels with gates at the top can be opened when the reservoir grows too high. Like a bath or sink overflow hole. Instead of overflowing, water flows down the hole at that level. Oroville Dam has 2 spillways. The largest one was a nearly kilometer-long concrete canal with 8 floodgates at the top. The floodgates opened at 8,000 cubic meters per second. That's enough water to fill 150 Olympic pools per minute. An emergency spillway would be used if necessary. This emergency spillway had a tiny weir 6 meters shorter than the dam wall, rather than a concrete channel. Before reaching the dam, the water would overflow this little weir. The emergency spillway would send water straight down the slope into the river below. The uncontrolled stream would soon lower the reservoir level and protect the dam, as planned. The emergency spillway was never tested in the dam's early decades. The main spillway handled little rainfall every year. California's wettest winter in 100 years changed everything in 2017. For the first time, the Oroville Dam's emergency spillway was activated. Things went wrong immediately. February 7th, 5 days before the evacuation, the crisis began on Tuesday morning. As usual, the main spillway had kept the reservoir at a reasonable level for the last month. The main spillway kept up with historic rains. Dam workers spotted something. The main spillway water looked like it gets stuck on something below the surface. To investigate, they blocked the floodgates. Workers were surprised as the water drained. The main spillway channel collapsed halfway down. The concrete had a huge crater, and the workers realized letting the water run again would make worse the damage. 3 days before the evacuation. With the main spillway off, the reservoir level jumped again, perilously near the dam. Workers faced a tough choice. Reopening the main spillway might worsen the crater. They might wait until the water reaches the emergency spillway and let it run downhill. They avoided using the emergency spillway. It had never been used, and the hillside where the water was supposed to flow had grown over with trees in the previous few decades. There were also power lines in the area, and these would be destroyed. The main spillway was partially reopened. The workers thought the lower stream would regulate reservoir levels without straining the crater. The representative said, "We do not anticipate any water going over the emergency spillway." He was completely mistaken. The reduced stream couldn't drain water a day before the evacuation. The reservoir level was rising and will reach the emergency spillway for the first time in history in hours. Workers cleared the hillside nervously. They removed trees and power lines in minutes. The reservoir overflowed the spillway for the first time. A sharp flow of water rushed downward in seconds, alerting the workers to a major problem. A geology report examined the slope before designing the emergency spillway. The investigation found solid bedrock on the hill. The hill was meant to endure spillway water. The geology report was wrong. In 2017, strong currents ripped dirt and rock off the mountainside. The slope collapsed, putting the dam in danger. On evacuation day, if the hillside collapsed, billions of liters of reservoir water would flood the valley. Over 100,000 Central Valley residents were evacuated by the authorities.
We had to make a very, very critical and difficult decision to initiate the evacuation. I couldn't risk the lives of thousands of people.
The California Department of Water Resources estimated the dam would break within 1 hour. Terrified residents fled. Gas stations were empty and roadways were gridlocked. People anticipated a deafening boom and a wave coming down the valley at any moment.
It's that emergency spillway that is in jeopardy, and if it fails, communities downstream would be in serious trouble.
The emergency spillway was still destroying the hill at the dam. Workers opened the main spillway, ignoring the concrete channel damage. Lowering the reservoir past the emergency spillway was all that mattered, with the hope of not collapsing the hillside. And then suddenly at 9 p.m., the water stopped. Imagine how the workers felt. The Oroville spillways discharged a lot of water and lowered the reservoir. February 13th, the aftermath. A group of helicopters dropped sandbags and boulders on the mountainside after it dried up. The dam was safe the next day after repairs. People were invited home when the reservoir level was controlled. Central Valley destruction remained. The hillside collapsed, dragging mud and rocks down a river, damaging an important fishery. 9 million fish were moved to a downstream fishery, but the damage could have been more severe. Then a scandal broke. The Friends of the River, Sierra Club, and South Yuba Citizens League approached the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission a decade earlier. The emergency spillway of the Oroville Dam might destroy rocks and collapse the main dam, according to these organizations. These groups petitioned the Federal Commission to concrete that area of the hill to prevent collapse. The Federal Commission ignored the organizations since upgrading the dam would cost over $100 million. In 2013, dam workers found a crack in the main spillway, where the 2017 crater would appear. Engineers fixed the crack without strict supervision. 2 years later, safety inspectors skipped that spillway section. According to an investigation, they examined the concrete from some distance and may have missed an indication that possibly prevented what happened. May 2017 hearings at the California Department of Water Resources. They risked thousands by overlooking warning indications. One assemblyman said it was frightening. He said it's a mess that has to be fixed. Warning signs weren't just ignored at the Oroville Dam. Dams older than 50 years were considered outdated. A 2016 survey, a few months before the Oroville incident, indicated that most American dams have passed the cutoff. Modernizing and improving them prevented future crises. In the years after the Oroville Dam accident had happened, repairs and renovations cost over $1 billion by 2018. The main spillway was rebuilt with new technology to assess dangerous pressure buildups. Workers reinforced the emergency spillway's rock foundations. The dam was declared secure and reliable in 2020. If the emergency spillway is opened again, the hillside won't collapse. The improved main spillway has been utilized twice. It released a small supply in March 2023. The Oroville Dam accident did not kill anyone, but it might have. The incident taught us that dams are strong and hazardous, and we should never ignore safety warnings. How do you feel about this almost certain disaster? Comment below. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.